palace filled with silence and secrets, one woman rewrote history from inside the walls of the harem with the delicate weapons of charm, loyalty, and strategic femininity. Hürrem Sultan, a slave girl from a foreign land, captivated by the greatest ruler of the East, Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent. Today, my dear viewers, we step into the jewel chambers of Topkapi Palace to uncover the feminine influence and art of seduction and femininity of Hürrem Sultan. Her story is not just about love, it's about transformation, power, and the art of becoming unforgettable. Dear viewers of my channel or fans of the legendary series Magnificent Century that I am also currently watching and that I will use scenes from throughout this video, we will look closer at the psychological hacks that Hürrem uses, and we will explore timeless lessons from Hürrem that we as modern women can also apply or benefit from in these days. So I suggest that you now serve yourself a nice Turkish tea or maybe Turkish coffee and simply sit down on a nice pillow and enjoy. Hello my dear viewers and welcome all of you. I'm sure that there are some of you new here because I guess that as the Magnificent Century series is so famous and Hürrem Sultan is such a legendary figure, maybe some of you clicked on that video who don't know my channel yet, so I welcome you. I'm talking about femininity and feminine movement, body language, seduction. So if you like those topics, I would suggest you to subscribe and click the notification bell. And for all my viewers who already know me but might not know this historical seductress and icon of femininity, I would say, or the series, stay here because it will be very interesting for you. I know what you like and you will like what we will learn here. So let's start with a little bit of the historical facts and let's look at the world of the harem. In the 16th century, the Ottoman Empire, in which all of this takes place, was at its peak. Behind its mosques and military power stood Topkapi Palace that you can still find in Istanbul, in Turkey. And within this palace, one of the most mysterious part of the empire, the Imperial Harem. The harem was not a place of indulgence or some kind of fantasies that men have, but it was actually the part of the palace where the female members of the family lived, of the royal family, but also all other women. So all the slave women and concubines that were captured, and those women, they were selected and brought to the harem. They were usually converted to Islam, given new names, and they were trained like in a finishing school. So they learned to play music instruments, to dance, how to behave, and all those female stuff. So basically it was like an intern finishing school in the harem. But it all served one purpose. They should serve and possibly they should please the Sultan. Only one concubine at a time would be summoned to the chambers of the Sultan. So it is not like in those harem fantasies. It was really strictly forbidden for men to enter the harem unless they were, castrated. So there were men working in the harem, but they were not able to do anything. And actually only a few among those hundreds of concubines ever made it to the chamber of the Sultan. Most of them were simply servants. So they served the other members of the royal family, the female members, or even the higher ranking concubines. So their only hope was to capture the Sultan's heart. And now we come to Hürrem, because Hürrem originally was a slave girl from the country that is today Ukraine, but at that time it was under the Polish crown. Hürrem was originally born as Aleksandra Lisowska. That's actually a Polish sounding name because I was born in Poland. And she was brought to this palace. And in the series you also see how she's in the beginning very desperate and actually only wants revenge for her family and that she's been captured and brought there. Her first encounter with the Sultan that we see, she already breaks every rule. Because usually when the Sultan passes, the women have to stand in line and look down. They are not allowed to look up. But when the Sultan passed and Hurrem stood in line, she not only looked him straight in the eye, but she also called his name. So the Sultan came back to her, looked at her because he was at the same time shocked and fascinated by her bravery and probably also by her beauty and exotic look. Hurrem had red hair, and also in history, not only the actress in the series, but in history she had red hair and she was looking differently. So when he comes back to her, she does another trick. It already starts with strategy. She faints into his arms. Before that, she whispers his name in his ear. And when I saw this scene, I immediately thought, my God, she is such a seductress. I mean, she combined many things that were already seductive on its own. And then she says his name in a whispered, soft voice, which is also seductive, and people love hearing their names. Especially a man like Suleiman, like the biggest emperor of that time, who had for sure a big ego and loved to hear his name. So soon after, Hurrem was chosen to dance in front of the Sultan together with other concubines. And also in this dance, she uses seductive feminine power. She dances not in a revealing way or in a vulgar way, but in a cheerful, playful, soft and feminine manner. And again, she uses her gaze a lot, her eyes. So throughout her interactions, we see how she uses those subtle feminine seduction gestures. And of course, the Sultan falls for her. He chooses her to go to his chamber. And she spends not only a night with him, but a whole day, I think several nights and several days, which was already something unusual because usually the concubines were chosen for one night and then they returned latest at the next morning. But Hurrem simply spent like a whole weekend with him. He was very cheerful and very fun. That's why he gave her this name, Hurrem, because it was of course not her original name. And she also told him that she wanted to convert to Islam, which was also something that touched him. Somehow she captured him with her unusual personality. While all women were submissive and calm and shy, she was cheerful, fun, and simply different. Sultan Suleiman already had a favorite, though, and he had already a son with this favorite concubine. Her name was Mahidevran. So she enjoyed a special status in the harem because if you have a child, especially if you have a son, you become a sultana. The sultan, this is how it was in history or in the tradition, never married. And usually after this first child, there won't be a second child. But despite of all those traditions, in the course of the years, Hurrem became not only his favorite, but even his lawful wife. This also she gained by another trick, but you will see that in the series, if you watch it, or maybe you know it already when you have watched it. The thing is that she broke all the rules. She also got a son, then she got a daughter, then she got 3 more sons. So this was really unusual. And of course, in the series, Hurrem is also involved in many plots. I think historically it was maybe not as dramatic as it is in the series, but I'm sure that there have been those situations too, because after all, it was a very dangerous situation and a very dangerous time with a lot of rivals and enemies. So she might also had to defend herself, and for sure she did that. Historically, it is known that Hurrem kept her power through love. Her actions were bold, So there were several situations and scenes also in the series where she really proves him that she would give her life for him. She showed extreme loyalty. And loyalty is something that was like the #1 value of the Sultan. Somehow she and her allies managed to get rid of all the women, and there were some serious threats. There was even a woman that the Sultan really fell in love with, Firuze, but in the end she somehow managed to get her out of the way. And the Sultan's heart all the time remained with Hürrem, even when there were phases when it was a little bit in the background. She literally remained like a rock in the surf, never gave up on him, and reminded him of her love and loyalty constantly. In the end, she even became the Sultan's most trusted confidant, as it happened with many women of kings and rulers throughout history, even with mistresses such as Madame Pompadour. So I have many of those examples. Now let's come to the feminine lessons that we can learn from Hürrem, because I have summarized them a little bit from the series. Lesson number 1, movement is seduction. So Hürrem shows us that feminine movement and grace is truly seductive, because in her dance in which she seduces the Sultan, she's not provocative, she's not vulgar, but she moves with grace, with ease, and with feminine softness. And because her dance is joyful, light, and elegant, she manages to seduce him. But there is also another aspect that she uses that I already hinted on, and that's her gaze. She uses her eyes a lot to look at the Sultan while she is moving in a very soft and playful way. And this combination is something that the other dancers, the other concubines who danced together with her, did not do. Remember to work on your posture always. Your grace and your walk will make a big impact on how you are perceived as a woman. Also, you should wear vibrant colors, colors that suit you. This is also what Hürrem does in the series. All the women there, by the way, are really dressing, of course, in a beautiful way, because those dresses in those times were simply stunning, but they also use colors strategically. And Hürrem often wears colors that really bring out her features. And this is something that we can also let ourselves be inspired by. Don't only wear what is in or what colors are now in fashion, but wear what makes you shine, what makes your eyes pop, your hair look the best, because those colors will make your whole appearance much more impactful. And of course, we should also take care of our styling and makeup. Simply make the best of your natural features without exaggerating. Lesson 2 of Hürrem for the modern lady. Allow yourself to be bold and cheerful, because while other concubines in the series acted submissively, Hürrem stood out by her playful, spirited, and bold behavior and personality. And it also teaches us that we can be a little bit proactive, even though many femininity coaches will tell you to be the feminine energy person to receive. And I already told you that in one of my videos, but the thing is that we often forget, and this is something that is not taught a lot, women and men, we have both energies in us, the feminine and the masculine energy, and they are used in different situations. And many or most feminine energy coaches, they don't tell you, or maybe they don't know, that seduction is actually a masculine energy. It has always been. But it doesn't mean that while being seductive you will look masculine. What we are talking about here is something that is doing, that is acting. It is an action and a proactive thing that we do, and that Hürrem does, and that all the other seductresses do. They do it in a feminine way, but the energy is masculine. And you can allow yourself to use the masculine energy a little bit in that way. You can be shy and receptive later. And just to give you an example, that Hürrem was not the only seductress being proactive or using masculine energy to seduce. There are countless other seductresses in history. Just only think of Cleopatra. That's the first one that comes into my mind. And I also made a video about her, which is very successful. I will actually link it here for you to watch it later and also down below. Just remember the scene when she took the action and let herself be brought to Julius Caesar, rolled in a carpet. I mean, that was not only a proactive action, it was also, again, a bold move. And I think especially with those emperors and kings of the history, the bold move was the only way to actually get the attention of those men and impress them. Now let's go on to the next lesson. Hürrem's lesson number 3. Speak to his soul. Hürrem knew what the love language of Sultan Suleiman was. It was simply obvious that his love language was words, words of affirmation and words in general. He was a big fan of poetry and he himself used words in a very poetic way. It is known, and there are historical sources for that, that the Sultan and Hürrem have exchanged passionate love letters. Everyone carries an invisible longing in them, and it is on a good seductress to find out what this longing is. Most men have an ideal image of themselves or an ideal life, so a good seductress reflects on that. And Hürrem did that in such a way that she in the end embodied this and made him feel like she is the only woman in this world who really gets him, who really understands his true self. So if you want to learn from her, find out what touches a man's heart, what is his love language, and speak to that part of him. In the end of this video, I will show you some of the original letters Suleiman wrote to Hürrem, so stay until the end. But now let's move on to lesson number 4, loyalty. Loyalty creates emotional safety. In a world full of betrayal, Hürrem gave Sultan loyalty. She never turned against him. She never exposed his weaknesses. And she always reaffirmed and showed him his loyalty. And also she expressed it with her words in very poetic and impactful ways. So for a man, especially a very powerful man, loyalty, as I said, was the highest value. And it gave him emotional security because he knew that he can trust this woman behind closed doors. And the love that Hürrem had for him was not one-sided. He also loved her very much. And even though there were moments during the series, I don't know how it was in history, in which one could doubt this, in the end he was really devoted to her. And he also forgave her many things that she did. He always forgave her and he always believed in her unconditional love. So here I will read you a poem, and it's his most famous poem to Hürrem. And it goes like this. It begins with, "My one and only love, my heart and my soul, my joy and my beloved, the torch of my heart, my springtime, my merry-faced love, my night and my day, my pleasure and my pain." He called her not his concubine, but his soulmate. She died before him, buried beside him in his mausoleum. Even in death, he chose her. So what's the final reflection of this beautiful story and captivating historical series? I can only recommend you to watch it if you haven't. Hürrem teaches us that femininity is a true power when it is intentional, joyful, and emotionally intelligent. And depending on the situation, you also need to use strategy sometimes. At least she had to be very strategic, but that didn't hold her back from also being devoted. And this story also shows us that you don't need to be born with wealth or with a title or even with perfect beauty. Hürrem, after all, was a slave when she first came to the palace. What you need is presence, soft strength, self-belief. And I think on this channel you will find a lot of content to develop those things in you, to get inspired. So I will be very happy again if you choose to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you again. And now let me know if you watched the series Magnificent Century and how you liked it. I'm looking forward to read your comments. So thank you for watching and see you in my next video. Bye bye.
Ben Hürrem, Sultan Süleyman'ın kölesi, cariyesi, sultanı, 5 evladının anası, nikahlı karısı Hürrem, miski, anveri, varı, sevgilisi parlak ay, yakın, sırdaşı, güzeller içinde sultanı Hürrem.